What is going on, Bucs fans and CFP fans? Evan Wanish here, back at you with yet another video talking about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And today we're going to be going over the best and the worst from the Buccaneers Week 12 30-7 W against the New York Giants, the 2-9 Giants right now. We talked about how, before the game that, the Giants were struggling, right? And this was a game that the Buccaneers simply had to have. And they certainly took care of business in a big way on Sunday. I'm going to spoil a little bit. Our worst list is not going to be very long because in a 30-7 win, we basically have to nitpick a little bit here. So no hard feelings to anybody who may be on the worst list, but in a 30-7 win, there's just not much bad to talk about. So with that being said, let's get into the good, and we're going to start off with quarterback Baker Mayfield. Now, Mayfield had 0 passing touchdowns. He had 1 rushing touchdown, 1 total touchdown today from Baker Mayfield, but 24 of 30, almost 300 yards, I Bleav 294 passing yards, and a couple of scrambles there, including a rushing touchdown. Mayfield did a nice job on Sunday of avoiding rushers, extending plays. Like I said, he was able to use his legs to rush, but also extend plays, find open receivers, and control the game pretty much with some nice throws as well. Just didn't really have the touchdowns to show for it, but that doesn't really matter when you're moving the football as well as the Buccaneers did, and able to pound the rock, down in the red zone. What did you think of Mayfield's day? Rhett Matthew, who I forgot to introduce, is also joining me today, my CFE co-host. So, Rhett, what did you think of Baker Mayfield's day?
I think Baker's been playing the best football of his career all season. I know he kind of had that rough stretch, 7 interceptions in 3 games. Some of them were a little tic-tac, but other than that, he has been one of the most consistent pieces of this Buccaneers offense so far this year, and they have been a weapon in themselves, one of the better units in the NFL when it comes to scoring, when it comes to moving the football. And with a quarterback playing as well as Baker is right now, he's making all of the right decisions. Another week of taking care of the football, and he was playing from a clean pocket most of the time as well. So when you give him time to work, he's going to give you his best, and he has given that to the Buccaneers this season so far.
Another boost for the Buccaneers offense was Bucky Irving. And Bucky Irving was good in both the run and the pass game on Sunday. Had 64 yards, I Bleav, on 6 catches in the passing game. Also had 12 carries for 87 yards and a touchdown in the running game. Could have had a couple more touchdowns. Got stopped at the 1-yard line twice in this ball game. So Bucky Irving continues to show that he is an impact player for this Bucs offense. And dare I say, he's their feature back because, man, he was playing a lot more than any of the other guys. We don't have the snap counts out right now, but just feels like watching that football game, you saw a lot more Bucky Irving than you did Rachaad White or Sean Tucker, and rightfully so. I mean, he's earned the snaps. It's not like he hasn't earned those snaps, and Bucky with another big day on the ground and through the air for the Buccaneers.
Todd Bowles loves his coach speak. He can say whatever he wants this week about the running back rotation, but we've been saying it really since week 1, week 2 of the season. Bucky Irving is the most explosive running back on the roster. When you put the football in his hands, I just feel like he has the most chance to break off a 40, 50-plus yard run. They made a clear effort to get Sean Tucker involved at some points in this game. I like the way that he was used, kind of a goal line back. We saw him in goal to go. We saw him convert that 4th and run, but Bucky Irving, far and away, the most effective and explosive running back on the roster. Again, with the Buccaneers already fielding a running back room with 3 talented guys.
For sure. And Bucky Irving has a lot of holes, right, to run through. And one of the reasons is the offensive line. And that brings us to our next one. We are not going to single out anybody along the offensive line because, look, they play as a unit, right? But it was massive. Shout out to Justin School, though, okay, filling in for Tristan Wirfs. They allowed 0 sacks on the day. And you had mentioned earlier, Baker Mayfield having a pretty clean pocket. 0 sacks to the team. And I know you're going to say, well, the Giants stink, The Giants have the 2nd most sacks in the NFL entering today's game or Sunday's game. Entering Sunday's game, they had the second most sacks in the NFL, only behind the Denver Broncos. And the Buccaneers held them to 0 sacks without their best offensive linemen. So it really speaks to the testament of the O-line depth that the Bucs have and just the starting offensive line overall. So shout out to all the big guys up front. Definitely made their money on Sunday. Not only protecting Baker Mayfield, but opening up lanes for the Buccaneers running backs as well. Massive day for the offensive line against a pretty good defensive line unit in New York.
Absolutely. Those big people movers up front continuing to do their things and open up the lanes for the running backs, as you said. Rookie Graham Barton, right guard Cody Malk. I mean, he's not an offensive lineman, but Vita Vea at fullback today had a couple of big impact blocks at the goal line as well. So you love to see it. Those guys doing a great job.
Yeah, absolutely. And we are going to turn our attention over to the defensive side of the football, which I think a lot of Bucs fans, a lot of people were wanting to pay attention to this one, right? To the defense, because it's been the unit that has struggled more this season, right? It's been the unit that has really, especially these last 4 games during the 4-game losing streak, really was not a strong suit. And one of the reasons that they were losing a lot of these football games here. So, I thought the on the defensive side of things, a quick shout out to Christian Izien, who is the Buccaneers' leading tackler on Sunday. 10 total tackles for the undrafted rookie, second year undrafted rookie, or undrafted free agent, sorry, out of Rutgers. So a little bit of a homecoming for him, pretty close, right? The Meadowlands and stuff, pretty close to home there for Christian Izien. Another good find for Jason Light and the Buccaneers as Izien continues to develop. What did you think of Christian Izien's day, Christian Izien's season? Because again, he's playing a little bit more because a guy like Tyke Smith was out of this game, so somebody had to step up, and it was Izien's time.
Yeah, and we might be seeing even more Christian Izien over the next couple of weeks, considering the pec injury to Jordan Whitehead. Probably going to have him sidelined for at least a couple of weeks here. So I think the workload for Christian Izien is just going to get turned up here. And he has been all over the field ever since his rookie season for the Buccaneers last year. He's shown that, he can get his nose into the pile. He can make those dirty, aggressive plays for the Buccaneers. He was one half of that overload blitz that got the first sack of the game. So Todd Bowles really knows how to get the most of this guy. And again, just another guy stepping up and doing a really great job here in this defensive back room.
Absolutely. And then we're also going to pay some attention to the Buccaneers defensive line, which is Vita Vea and Kalijah Kancey.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I want to point out the two guys in the middle there. Both guys had sacks on Sunday, and both guys made impact. And they were guys that I think the Buccaneers needed to have step up, and they did just that. So, what did you think of the two big boys up front?
Man, I've said enough about Kalijah Kancey, but I can go on. It's no problem at all. I'm such a big fan of number 94, and yeah, he's on a career best pace despite missing some action early in the season. If Kancey just keeps getting better and keeps developing, it's really hard to discount the interior of this Buccaneers defensive line. I know we've had our gripes with the pass rush altogether, but that's mostly on the edge rushers. Like, I think we can look at the overall defensive line and some of their shortcomings and say that some of these edge rushers need to step up. These interior guys between Vita Vea and Kalijah Kancey, when Kancey's healthy, he is really looking like he's going to turn into, one of the next big superstars in the interior defensive line there. He's looking great.
For sure. And speaking of looking great, I kind of want to turn it to guys that maybe weren't looking as great. And again, in a 30-7 win, this is going to be a bit nitpicky. So don't blame us, but we have to have somebody, right? You can't just say, well, it's zero. So for the worst, we're going to go with tight end Cade Otton. This is the first time he's been on the other side of these lists lately, right? He's been on the other side because he's been really good for the Buccaneers. Has one catch for 30 yards today. That's good, right? Like the 30-yard catch, explosive play. But he did have two drops, two catches, two balls that probably should have been caught as well. So it's definitely something you want to see cleaned up. He has had a case of the dropsies every now and then, this season and in years past. So you want to see him clean that up. So Cade Otton, though, While he had the explosive play, I think the Buccaneers want to see a little bit more out of him, especially now that Mike Evans is back. Have Cade Otton maybe as one of them top two receiving targets for the Buccaneers, and they're going to need to rely on him. And having 2 drops in one game isn't really being much reliable.
Yeah, I thought it was a decent afternoon for Cade Otton. Like you said, you got to be a little nitpicky with certain things. And when you look at where the Bucs were held back today, a couple of costly drops from Cade Otton.
Yeah.
Did a good job at helping this offensive line with the extra blocking up front to help out Justin Skule at times. So, he played his role, but certain catches, when you're an NFL tight end, you got to look that one in. So some things he's going to want back out there today, I'm sure. But he had his moments, I guess.
Yeah,
is what it is
for sure.
Like
and look, he's been good. He has been good, and especially when without Mike Evans, without Chris Godwin, Cade Otton has been the guy. Like, this offense would have looked much worse had it not been for Cade Otton during a little stretch there. So, yeah, he has definitely earned some to cut him some slack, right? But you gotta catch the ball when it comes to you, right? It's that simple. Now this one is gonna be a little bit more nitpicking, and we're gonna talk about the wide receiver depth. So the Buccaneers, outside of Mike Evans, who has 5 catches for 68 yards, Sterling Shepard has 5 catches for 16 yards, an average of 3.2 yards per reception. Now, I mean, they didn't really put him in many spots to go downfield or whatever, but other than that, though, you have Jalen McMillan with 1 catch, Ryan Miller with 1 catch, Trey Palmer with 1 catch, Raheem Jarrett with 1 catch. So I was just a little bit disappointed, okay, during this game to see somebody else not really step up, right? Jalen McMillan, have 4 or 5 catches, right? Make a statement. It seems like in these games, they'll make, like, a receiver will make 1 impact play maybe, and then sort of go quiet the rest of the game. And maybe, I haven't really got a chance to watch the film. Maybe there's a couple of times where Jalen McMillan or Trey Palmer, they're open a bunch and just not getting the ball. That happens too. Like I said, this is nitpicking because at the end of the day, the Bucs offense was really good in this game. But I would like to see a little bit more out of the wide receiver depth, because as you go on and you're facing better teams, you're not going to be able to rely on just basically 2 targets on Mike Evans and Bucky Irving. You're going to have somebody else step up.
Yeah, you're 100% right. And I think you're also counting on the development of a player like Jalen McMillan. I think a lot of Bucs fans are still waiting on him to take a step in this offense, really start to carve out a nice role for himself, because he has had his moments. He's had, a touchdown catch this year, had a nice first down catch on Sunday. But other than that, he's been relatively quiet, relatively underwhelming. So I think you're looking for someone to kind of step in and fill that gap, because I know the Bucs are going to have plenty of time to address this. I think Mike Evans plays next year. The Chris Godwin contract, we'll have to wait and see. But there will come a time where Mike Evans isn't on this offense anymore, and you're kind of hoping this batch of guys that you have right now, at least one of them is going to break out enough to be a long-term option for you.
For sure. And look, I mean, there's 6 games remaining, right? So there's a couple more opportunities for one of those guys to step up down the stretch here. So let us know who you thought were the best or the worst in this game, who impressed you, who disappointed you in this game. But I want to thank you all for watching. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and go Bucs.